All right, everyone. Welcome to episode two of our. No, we're on three. I was wrong. We're on episode three of our 2026 season because we had some preseason stuff and some other things happen. So, welcome to episode three of our second season, Unfiltered Race Fans Only podcast. Just me and Blake today. We're going to break down our thoughts on the Clash and what happened there for the preseason. The first exhibition race of the year, but the first race where we get a little taste of the new horsepower. And we've waited and waited and waited. If you watched the preseason podcast for all that snow and all that bad weather, we finally get our race. So with that, what'd you think of the Clash, Blake?
Terrible. I it did what I thought it was going to be, and even worse, that they with the rain or sleet or whatever it was, the everything that went into it, all the NASCAR putting their hands in the water, and let's do this now, let's do this now, and forcing teams to stay on wets or go to wets or they. The whole thing was just terrible for me. I just couldn't get into it at all. I think going to a quarter mile racetrack when there's not one other quarter mile racetrack on the schedule is the most asinine thing that we can do.
Yeah. Uh, the only thing I enjoyed seeing was we got just a small sliver of a taste of how the increased horsepower gave them more drive up off the corner. And with this being a quarter mile track as opposed to a half mile like Bristol or bigger from here on out, what we'll get for the rest of the season with North Wilkesboro, New Hampshire, uh, Bristol, Richmond, all of our tracks that are going to get to you, Phoenix, I think gets this also the increased horsepower, if I remember correctly. Like all the places where it should make a difference, Iowa, where we're going to get this, off the corner speed increase, which would then in turn do the tire wear. That was really the only positive I got out of it.
Yep, I
Um,
agree.
I don't really. I'm six of one hand, half dozen the other. Like I think it was a dumpster fire, like from start to finish. Not all of it was within NASCAR's control, obviously, because the whole country had just unbelievable winter siege type weather.
Yep.
But because this is not a mandated points race and it hurts nothing to move it toward later in the year, I really think NASCAR should have just said, you know what, we're going to move this to either later in the summer or we'll run it after the championship. We'll have an exhibition race after the championship. Where your 16 guys run for whatever, put out some massive financial prize and just like restructure
Mhm.
it. Because I mean, the biggest detractor for me was what you said. I did not like that. I don't remember what lap it was, but Hocevar came in and took rain tires off, put slicks on. Nobody noticed. He goes back out, and at a certain point, he comes back in for fuel, and they're like, "Hey, you got to take those back off." This track isn't that big. The safety implications weren't severe enough to me where I felt NASCAR should be telling the teams and dictating when they could put rain tires on, when they could take them off. Like, you have this many sets of each. If you want to burn your stuff up, okay. Well, if it rains harder and you've used up your wets because you put them on early and maybe they gave you more grip, but because it's not as wet, you burn through the tire compound, which is what we've seen with these tires in the past. If they're not soaked enough, they burn through the rubber quicker and you end up with nothing but slicks and you're just sliding out there busting your ass. Well, they're barely going, 60 something mile an hour out there. So who cares? Let them, let the teams make that decision. I think it makes for a more compelling product that way.
Well,
You
there.
don't see F1 step in and say, all right, it's not raining hard enough. You can't run your wets. Yeah.
Well, not only the wet issue and wet and dries, you also had the issue of I believe Chase Elliott ran out of gas first, and then
Yes.
Larson, and then Byron, or something in that something in that
Yep.
order. But so then NASCAR decides, okay, everybody's getting gas right now.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's not how a race goes. You don't force teams or tell teams, hey, you're going in. And then this is coming from a Larson fan. He did get his lap back, but at that point, they forced him to come in too. He got screwed by running out of gas. It's their own fault. They ran out of gas. They had to get gas. They
Yep.
were a lap down. They got the lap back. But you making everybody come in, the people that already got gas should be then moved to the front of the field. But
Yep.
instead, you had teams that knew they could make it because they weren't dumb. They actually filled their gas tank up before the race. And you had teams that screwed up that should be in the back because they're screw up, Larson, Byron, that weren't affected by it, or they were affected because then they were forced to pit. So it's like, why are you messing with this? Just if they want to pit, tell them they can pit, but don't force everybody to do it. Don't force everybody to go on slicks. Don't just give the reins to the teams. Let them screw up.
Yep. Now,
Instead, you yourself as a sanctioning body screwed up.
the one thing I'll say that worked in their favor in terms of trying to make these kind of calls, and I don't agree with their call, but the fact that you can't do live pit stops because there's no pit road here, you have to come off the track. Uh, you know, I I give them a little leeway there, but at the same time, if this rule is everybody's supposed to start on the same tires, why is the rule also not that everybody has to start with a full tank of fuel?
Mhm.
And if it's not the rule that you have to start with a full tank of fuel, that's fine.
Make it the rule.
But then it's not my job to bail you out either if you
Yep.
choose to underfill. If you know this race is X number of laps long, you've been here and waiting and waiting, waiting. You've seen how crappy the racing conditions have been. So you should have planned for the fact that there's probably going to be a lot of caution laps. So that's bad planning on your part. And I don't think it's NASCAR's job to bail you out in the case of a competition event. Now, because it's a exhibition and it has zero impact on points, I mean, who gives a shit? It just looks really bad from an officiating standpoint. But to me, if I go out there and you tell me it's going to be X number of laps, and I only fill to exactly what I can do with no extra, and I run out, whose fault is that? That's mine. And if you run
Mhm.
out, then you pull off the track. You don't get to put more fuel in. You're just done. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You bet the wrong way, and if we end up with only 10 cars left running because 6 or 8 of them ran out of fuel, then so be it. I know it's not the best look on TV, but at the same time, it puts pressure on the teams to strategize better next time. So
Well, that's what us legacy fans want anyway. We want only 10 to 15 cars on track. We want pole sitters.
yeah,
That's what the clash was. That's what the shootout was. And now it's all charter teams. And then there's random other teams we've never even seen before that have track champions in there. And it's like, this is just a waste of time at this point.
yeah,
Honestly, if they took the clash off the schedule and didn't even replace it with anything, I'd be okay with it. There's no point to this race. It doesn't look like any other race on the schedule. It's a shit show at this point.
like I don't think we need to leave Bowman Gray. I don't. We obviously can't go there with a full car field with as many cars as we have and run a full race without having structured, controlled pit stops. And no pure fan wants to see that nonsense. So I don't know what I don't want to see us leave there because I think we belong there, way over being like the LA Coliseum. But I think having that as the first race of the year with the weather you're going to have, the snow, regardless of just how cold it is in North Carolina in January, any of your states are basically above the Georgia line. It's not very typical to have warm weather. So to me, if we're going to keep it, it needs to go back to Daytona or Texas or somewhere where it's warmer, where you can run a more traditional style race event and
Yep.
take some of the nonsense where NASCAR, and teams step on their dick and then you got to go bail them out. So, um, otherwise, from all the bad officiating, so the only real, uh, it was definitely bumper cars. I'll
Yeah, you
say
couldn't pass without bumping. It's
no, you
stupid.
couldn't. You had to drive through people. Um,
Which
but
is also not what the series does.
no, no, we do that maybe twice a year right now at Martinsville, and that's not the. It's even then we don't run over people to this level all the
The only
time.
place you run over people were Daytona and Talladega.
Yep. So yeah, I like the chair by the way. Nice.
Thank
Uh,
you. It was my wife's. I gave it to her for her His birthday or Christmas. I can't remember which one.
and then you
They're so
still.
close together.
So yeah, I don't really have
Well,
much
this is
to say
this
about
is
it.
my diecast room slash her office. So
Okay. So, but yeah, from a racing event standpoint, I don't really have much else to say about the Clash. I don't really know what we do with it at
the
the
only
moment.
thing I have really more to say about the Clash is the fact that there was more f bombs in Victory Lane than Chris Berry in our podcast.
Yes. Yep. Yep. I think NASCAR would have been better served to just let it go because we had that lead right up into the Super Bowl and it didn't. I don't feel like it did anything to wet the whistle or encourage me to watch the 500 or the duels or anything like that. So
Yep. Um, if you want to, we can take this episode into qualifying in the duels and then
yeah, let's
do
go
the
ahead and do that,
secondary.
and then we'll save the race day for its own thing.
Yep.
So then we move into the following week. Not even 7 full days removed, we get into qualifying on Wednesday, and uh, the big. I guess it shouldn't be surprising, but it was a nice surprise to see Kyle Busch eke out the pole. Briscoe sits on the front row for the second time in 2 years.
Yep.
Um, very fast. I really hate that fucking ghost car that Fox
I
likes to
I
show.
hate
Just
it.
show me the
Um,
damn car. That where the
yeah,
ghost car will take over
there's
showing the real car.
every
Which,
every other series, and I mean NASCAR back in the speed days. You just had a tracker at the bottom, and
yep,
if it went green, you're in the good. If it's red, you're in the back. You're not fast enough. Like
yeah,
we can see that it's not that hard, but instead we got a split screen of a real car and a fake car, and it
yeah,
stupid.
yeah.
But at least they got rid of the cartoon characters, right?
Yep. So that's a pro. They got rid of the cartoon characters. Um, so overall qualifying, nothing eventful there beyond. I think this
They
is only the second time in 2 years where, in the last handful of years, where HMS really hasn't had much to show. They were fast, but not nearly as fast in straight line speed, which told me that leading into the 500, and we talked about last year, Daytona is slowly not as fast as what Atlanta's doing, but it is slowly working its way back to being a more of a handling event.
Yep.
So they're focusing more on handling in the car and less on straight line speed. So
the
important.
the thing
Go
with
ahead.
qualifying is they need to get rid of this 2 round crap.
Yes,
It
agreed.
doesn't. How often do you see the guy that's fastest in the first round not be fast in the second? Not very.
Right.
Sometimes the front two swap. Like
Yeah.
that's the biggest change you get. If you're usually if you're around fifth, you qualify fifth or sixth in the second round. It nothing really changes. So there's no point in doing an extra. Was it take an extra 15 minutes to
Yeah, 15
do
to 20 minutes.
to
And
show you what you already knew?
the big thing to me is if you're preaching cost savings, then running these sealed engines that you can only run twice per before you can tear them down and rebuild them. You're putting unnecessary wear and tear damage on them by running that second to those 10 cars. Like for example, if you listen to Dale Jr. download leading up to the 500, he talks about the relief in qualifying that Justin got in, but all of a sudden he was upset that he was going to have to run a second time because he was inside the top 10, and or he
Then
thought
he
he was
got
going to have. He didn't end up having
yeah
to, but he still qualified high enough. But he was thinking he was going to have to, which was going to be another cycle on that car that's built with very limited, viability and lifespan. Like it's built to withstand a certain amount of abuse, and then you're going to have to tear it apart. So, um, I feel like that second round is entirely unnecessary. Just line up the 41, 43, however many people are there for that event. Let them all go out there and make two laps. You run a warm up lap and then your timed lap, and the next guy goes, and just do that, and it's done.
yeah
None of this group qualifying nonsense and A's and B's and anything else. And that's fine because especially for this race, because we're going to go race for it for the rest of it for 2 through 440, whatever. Uh, not a day later. So, um, yeah. So as far as the qualifying day, that's all I got on that one.
Yeah. It um I was shocked that we had potentially for a moment there we had three go or go home cars in the top 10.
Yeah,
That would have been exciting personally for the second round. That would be the only thing that was been like, oh shit, like
yeah,
this is and if you look at the times, the 99 missed being in the Daytona 500 by I think it was 5/1000ths of a
yeah,
second.
yep,
Like that is insane. That and then we'll find out what happened there in the duels later. But uh, to 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 miss the top two by 5/1000ths,
yeah,
that sucks.
yeah. So we move into Thursday in the duels. Here's how bad a job NASCAR did this speed weeks in promoting this. I forgot the
Speed
duels
week,
were even on speed
speed
weeks
week.
in promoting. I forgot the duels were even on Thursday. That's how bad the advertising was and marketing material.
Well, we're
That
too busy marketing the Indy cars.
yep. So I see a Joseph Newgarden commercial all the time, and I
Hmm.
mean I'm glad for IndyCar that they're and with Fox that they're investing. It again, NASCAR needs to straighten their stuff out because I literally forgot the duels were happening. And normally during speed weeks or speed week in the past several years, I've got my week planned out. Like, okay, Thursday night, I'm not agreeing to do anything because I'm going to watch these races. And I completely forgot they were on. So I went through on YouTube TV after the fact and watched Duel One, skipped through a lot of the, commercial nonsense and everything. Um, I didn't expect Kyle Busch to do much because he had the pole, but just what I saw during the first duel made me question his car's speed when it got to running with other people for the Daytona 500, just because he wasn't able to stay up there. He wasn't able to suck up. And so he ultimately bailed out and, protect his car, which was smart. But with the time he did have up toward the front, I didn't see him being able to do things with the car speed. So definitely had some handling and some aero issues. I don't know if that's due to his car or the new Chevy nose in general. Because I saw lots of Chevys seem to have, at least in Duel One, it seemed like, and it continued over to Duel Two. Just seemed like the new nose and aero changes. They've got some work to do there. They don't seem to have the speed they need just yet, in my mind, compared to the prior instances of this car. What do you think about that?
I'm opposite. I think they were taking care of them. Uh, with the pole sitter deal, first off, I just want to like look back at. I remember in 1998, Terry Labonte won the pole, and I think within the first three laps, he pulled in the garage to save the car. And
Yeah,
I'm surprised more pole sitters and outside pole sitters don't do that. Like I know the duels are got points to them now and everything, but Daytona 500 is more important than a duel win, and the 10 points that come with it. Save the car, save the starting spot. You know, I get that, but save the car altogether.
yeah.
But as far as what was your question? Sorry.
Just how do you think just from the duels alone, how did you feel like going into the Daytona 500 weekend, how the Chevys are going to measure up? Uh, based off the new nose, when they did do some pushing, it seemed like it was almost too rounded or didn't match up to the bumpers as much as maybe they'd hoped, and
Well,
it kind of
the only times they caused issues when they hit the back corner instead of hitting when they hit flush, they're fine.
yeah,
Uh, when they hit center of the bumper, they're I feel like they have the best pushes compared to Ford and Toyota now. Um, I was riding on board with uh, several Chevrolets throughout the duels, and from what I can tell, they were actually pushing better than what they were previous because they could line up and hit. Just TV wasn't showing that very well, but
yeah.
I was jumping around from Chevy to Chevy for that very reason to see what I could see with that, and I felt like the Chevys actually were pushing better than they used to be able to.
Yeah. Now, when the camera would zoom in, you could see that the front end was very pronounced and more round now than it's ever been before. Um,
Well,
on the cup cars, it
the
doesn't look
very
that bad.
front bumper, like from the grill, that's
Yeah.
flat. It's rounded but flat straight down.
Yeah. The
Before
new
it was pointed.
the cup car looks still has some aggressiveness to it where it still looks like a Camaro. The new O'Reilly series Camaro is ugly. It's not good looking at all.
No.
It's lost so much aggressiveness to the nose. But yeah, I can see what you're saying about pulling in and saving the car. The only reason why I felt like I would like to have seen Kyle Busch run more is because the Daytona 500 is important, and we have such limited track time and options for adjustability for this big race, and that's the only crown jewel he doesn't have. So
Yeah.
if it's his focus to win this so bad, I feel like they should have been out there trying to do as absolutely much as possible. Being that you only run this race one time a year, with this goal in mind for this as the crown jewel. It doesn't have the same weight as winning the summer race
Right.
at the end of the fall. So, and with decreased practice times and everything, I just would have liked to have seen him out there trying to figure out, ways to make the car faster, handle better. But so let's see.
So Duel One
Yeah,
was a crash fest.
yeah. Dual one. I didn't. I think it also a lot of it plays into who's in each duel as to how racy it is, and mix of which cars are in it ultimately determines like what you get to see. Uh, Duel one, I didn't see as many moves as I was expecting in drafts, but I think that's also a lot to do with who was inside each duel.
Well,
There were some good wrecks, don't get me wrong, but um, I didn't really till we got to Duel two feel like I got to see what kind of runs this car was going to produce as much.
well, as far as Duel One, RFK had it going on. They had the top
Mm-hmm.
four, and they had them. I mean, nobody could get by them.
Yeah,
It looked like Stuart Haas back at Talladega in what was that 19, 20, something like
yeah.
that. They had the top four at Talladega.
2018 because it was still in the Fusion. It wasn't in the Mustang yet.
Okay, so that they had it going on there, and I felt incredibly bad for Corey LaJoy. First, he
Yeah.
misses being locked in by 5/1000ths, and then he gets taken out by Daniel Suarez,
Yep.
who, what were they going for, a 10th?
Yep.
There was no reason for that push, that hit to go what possibly 2 spots. I mean, he owes Daniel Suarez a punch in the face for that hit.
Yeah. Yeah. The
Destroyed
RFK
a
cars
destroyed an
had
amazing
speed
car.
ready to go. They were, you could tell just from that okay, they're here to win this event. And Priest's car, sharp looking car, extremely fast. Busher, same thing till he got collected, tore up his car. Uh, like you said, I felt bad for LaJoy. That let Mears in, who was nowhere near fast enough
Well,
to get in.
Mears was in that crash earlier
Yep.
on
Yep.
and had amazing amount of damage. Went a lap down at one point, came back and somehow ekes his way in, and
Yep.
you know, destroyed the car is destroyed. But God, I mean, basically, as everybody always says, you make the Daytona 500, it makes your year.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
Doesn't
it's the
matter where you
biggest
finish in it.
purse. It was a
Yeah,
lot of money. I
32 million, I think, if I remember right. 33
think they
million.
said the average, if you just paid it out on average, each car would get $750,000.
Yeah.
So that's not a bad payday for one race for a cup team with the new charter agreements and the purse payouts and the strings and the second year of our TV agreement here.
Yeah,
It's multi-billion dollar.
but it destroyed a $250,000 car. So
Yeah. I think Brad's plan worked out, up until that point. They were going to have four cars to compete with the big three teams that also have four cars, to be able to try and control their destiny to win this because Penske's got four with the Wood brothers, Gibbs has four, and Hendricks got four, and you need as many alliances out there as you can. And they had speed for sure. So,
I tell you what, if I was Chandler Smith, I would have had a talk with Brad Keselowski. That part in the race where he basically just pushed him up the track to get LaJoy back by Chandler.
Hmm.
Oh my God, I mean, I get you're trying to help your car into the field, but you're you're playing with, other teams $250,000 cars, and then if you cause a wreck, you're, you know, $3 or $4 million worth of cars because
Well,
you're
that
trying
wouldn't
to
be
get
the
your
first time
car
for
in.
Brad, though.
Yeah.
Brad's wrecked at the front of the field numerous times and cost everybody a lot of money. So,
Yeah.
um, all right. So
Who won that duel?
I don't even remember. Because Chase won Duel 2. Who won
Yeah.
Duel 1?
Very memorable, wasn't it?
So memorable, I can't even remember who won.
Wonderful. Hold on a second. I'll
Yeah,
help you out.
exactly. Wonderful. Results here. Let's see what it says.
I got you. Duel one results were Logano.
Logano. So it was a Ford. I was in my head. I
Logano,
had a
Blaney,
Ford.
Dillon.
You you had a Ford at the Clash, a Ford at the first duel, and then we get to Duel 2. So Duel 2 was definitely racier in my mind, from what I just recall. For the
Racier and cleaner.
Yeah, racier and cleaner. Didn't have the big ones, but had a lot more pushing, but also runs. And I felt like it showed you more of what the car was going to be able to do, leading into the Daytona 500 than Duel 1.
Mhm.
So I felt bad for Alfredo at the end getting disqualified for the oil pan infraction with the hose not being properly secured and everything, because he raced well and that let McLeod in. Um, Beyond that, that was really the only really big memorable thing to me.
Well, there's two things memorable for me. Well, three. Carson Hocevar showed a lot of restraint and didn't.
Mhm.
I mean, it might be showing what we were talking about in the preseason deal. Like Carson showed some patience. He didn't make a move on Chase, didn't destroy two race cars or more,
Yep.
and he just stayed behind him and didn't do anything. Uh, and the same talk, Larson had a huge run down the back straightaway that he could have bolted to the inside and passed both of them like they were sitting still and didn't take it. Just pushed
Yeah.
Hocevar. That kind of made me question, like, what is this, a Chevy thing? The team thing? Is it just preserving the car thing? As far as Larson goes, that with points mattering more than ever, it is kind of lackluster for me when it comes to that. And then uh, get your thoughts on that before I go to my last thing
Well,
here.
yeah, I'd forgotten about that, but once you mentioned it, I can recall they had that major run on the outside, and he had the opportunity to pull down and under, and he and Byron just stayed in line, and I didn't understand why they didn't take the run, and increase their position. It didn't
So
seem.
it's him and McDowell. Byron had been in a wreck.
Oh yeah, you're right. Um, yeah, but
Byron was in the first duel as well.
but I didn't understand why Larson didn't pull down and take the run. There was a gap. He could have done it. He didn't. Um, to what you said about not Chesting, Hocevar, he definitely showed restraint, that he's growing. Um, I don't know how much his new, decade long driver thing ties into we're going to hire you. We've got, better money windfall from all this, all that kind of stuff plays in because he's definitely not looking for a job anywhere else now. So it's not like
Mhm.
he's trying to prove anything to like a Rick Hendrick or a Joe Gibbs or a 2311. He's not going to any of those is based on the scale of the, driver contract he signed. So if anything, he has less reason to be loyal to Team Chevy. He wouldn't be going anywhere. Even though Spire is, Jeff Dickerson. Jeff Dickerson comes from Hendrick. So there's still that alliance there, but uh, yeah. But also, I was impressed by this is now the second race of the season technically. even though we haven't gotten any like major points paying races yet, where Hocevar is showing now on a short track in those chaotic conditions with the wet and the rain tires, and now in these duels that early on this season, you're going to have to deal with him. You may not have liked seeing him up front last year in spurts, but he's definitely saying, my time is here now. You're going to have to get used to me being here, which I like. There's some things he needs to tune about his personality, but at the same time, him, Chastain, Gregson, like we need these kind of guys because Kyle Busch is on his way out the door at some point. We've lost, Tony Stewart and some of these other personalities that had a lot to say and a lot of, things that got you to either read articles, clicks, show up, join their camp, whatever the reason. We need Hocevar to be successful. So I was glad to see him fast and not make a bonehead move and wipe out the whole front of the field.
Yep. So my second thing was BJ McLeod's interview
Yes.
after at the time he thought he missed the show. He ended up getting it the next morning,
Yep.
but it doesn't take away from what he's saying. The fuel mileage racing, it's not racing. The fuel mileage crap that is going on in these races needs to go, and it needs to go fast. NASCAR
Yeah.
needs to make a rule. They already have a rule, and I've got it for our next episode for the 500. I've got something from Chris to say, but the
Yeah. We have the 100% rule. So
we have the 100% rule. So why are we letting the teams run 50%, 70% throttle in the
it's not
lead?
even the teams at this point. This was manufacturers that we see just across the board, whether it's Ford or Chevy or Toyota. Like once they get up front, they start dragging. We've seen the Fords do it. We've seen Toyota do it. We've seen Chevy do it all at different times where they just start dragging the whole field backwards. I wouldn't, if I'm the guy behind, I don't want to wreck a bunch of people, but also I don't think you can. I think part of the problem with this deal is so if you drag the brake and come back and you slow me down, it almost, because of the cushion of air, it almost makes it where I have no choice but to slow down because putting my foot full throttle in it, I can't run into the back of you. And just push you like we could with the tandem cars. And the air cushion is such a limiting factor with this rake on the bottom from the diffuser that I can't just drive and push you forward and out of the way if I want to go faster. So if you blockade the track, whether it's Talladega 4 wide, Daytona 3 wide, mostly just 2 wide at Atlanta, those are the 3 tracks we have that we do this at. I have no option but to participate in this nonsense because I can't overpower you unless by some luck I get up there. And then I have to run the risk of wrecking half the field or more, potentially sending a car into the grandstands just to get around it if I want to truly run wide open.
Yep. So yeah, they need to. If you're gonna have a 100% rule, make it black and white. If
Yep.
if we see that you're leading the pack, now if you're in a pack, you can't help but to run 80% throttle sometimes
Yep.
because you can't run in the guy in front of you. But if you're in the front of the pack, it needs to be 100%, no matter what. Especially around Daytona and Talladega. Now, like if they do what I'm about to say, you can't be 100%. You're gonna have to. If some of the best races Daytona 500s you have ever seen were probably in the 90s, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
So in the 90s, they weren't big packs. They were they were strung out, but you made moves based off your car's handling.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're making moves based off of the push you have from behind you because the cars are so slow. And they need to do what Dale Jr. said. Cut the spoiler down. They need to raise the car up off the ground and probably make the taper spacer just a little bit bigger
Yep.
to get the speeds up just a little bit, not a lot. We're talking, 10 miles an hour to where you have to let off to go into corners and handling matters. And those were the good 500s. These 3 wide packs that people think are amazing, none of these people realize that these drivers aren't 100% when they're 3 wide. They're
Yeah,
never 100% when they're three wide. They're 85, 90%. And
or less.
yeah,
Sometimes
and
significantly less.
yeah, like we'll see in the 500 show, way less. So, but BJ McLeod spoke his, you know, what he thought about it, and I agree with him 100%. Like they need to stop this shit. It's not racing.
Yeah. All right. Anything else you want to say about the duels before we conclude this and then move on to the main event?
No, I do agree with Larry McReynolds from I think it was from I think it was Larry McReynolds. The duels were better in the daytime. I get why
Yes.
they're at night. I get why they're at night because
Yeah, you're
more
trying to
viewers.
get your ratings and your viewership, but I agree they were
But
better in the daytime. Track being hotter helps the
the track
cars.
is hotter, slicker. Um, Nighttime is awesome. I love night races, but the duels belong in the day. And another thing, and it was help with this fuel mileage nonsense. It used to be the twin 125s. Take them back.
Yep.
50 laps instead of 60.
Yep.
In fact, honestly, make it to where make it to where it's 40 laps. You do not need 250 or 60 lap qualifying races around a track that takes 50 seconds to get around.
I agree. I'm perfectly fine. I think most fans would be because you're getting two of them. So, you know, both of them together shouldn't eclipse 100 laps total. I'd be perfectly fine if you just ran 25 laps in each one and said, okay, it was just an
And
appetizer.
and here the thing is, we're trying to get rid of fuel mileage nonsense. They have to run full out if they're leading, and if they're not, penalize them. Make the duels to where you have to make a pit stop by lap 20, make it 40 laps. By lap 20, you have to pit. That way, the fuel doesn't mean a damn thing.
Can they
You have
go?
to pit for
Can
four
they go?
tires and go.
They can go 25 laps on fuel, right? I think.
No, they can go 45 laps on fuel.
Okay, so if we can go 45 laps on fuel, then I think we ought to just shorten the duels up to
Or
25
let's just
laps a
say,
race. Just because then from the drop of the flag, there's a complete sense of urgency. You don't need to pit, you don't need to fuel unless you have something happen, nothing. When we drop the green flag, you got 25 laps to figure out your way you're going to win this event and get that
mhm.
set of point, that, first point to start your year. And
Well, I say to put a pit stop in the middle of the thing to bring the teams into the qualifying races. So keep it at 40 laps, make them pit by lap 20.
mm,
Don't tell them when to pit, but you have to pit by lap 20, and then you know you bring the teams into it. You have to take four tires and go on. I
okay. I
mean,
mean, I'm okay with 40. I just think at 25, because that's usually when we see everything start to get more intensity build up, is around the 25 to
mhm.
go mark in any of these races.
Yeah, you're right.
Drafting, see people start to make their moves to the front and decide. So maybe even 35 laps. You got 10 laps of feeling it out, and then it's time to position yourself to win this thing. So 40 would be fine, but definitely no more than 40. That way you take required pitting out of it. You
Yep.
open the window for pitting if you need it for either fuel because it helps weigh your car down a little bit more for handling, or you want to come in and try tires. If your car's not driving well and you happen to have a caution due to somebody, and it will, because it will increase the intensity by being so short, you're going to have natural cautions. You don't need any stage. There doesn't need to be a stage. Nothing. Just
Yep.
there will be a natural event that will bring a caution more 9 times out of 10 in each one of these races. You won't have to do anything but line them up and let them go. Um, and in that regard, I would take that logic toward the Daytona 500 because to me, I've said it last year and others have as well. That I know you agree. The Daytona 500 as a whole has kind of lost its luster because of the several factors. The winning you're in, which is now thankfully gone, which was then part of the playoffs. So it's just really just another race. The way the racing is, and they've taken so much skill out of it and everything that
Yep.
honestly, the Daytona 500 doesn't even need to be but 100 laps total. And just be like, that's it. There's 100 laps. You're gonna have the first 50 to kind of feel your car out, make any adjustments, and from there it's going to be a rush to the finish. There's basically one natural pit stop that would happen, maybe.
You're good. Sorry.
No, that's maybe two, but then it would also again take care of some of the fuel saving shenanigans by shortening it up because you can carve up the race a little bit better. But go ahead.
NASCAR let the 2000 Daytona 500 cloud everything. The 2000 Daytona 500 was boring, terrible. Uh,
Yeah.
the Fords just had it on lockdown. Dale Jarrett, particularly, nobody could pass him, and good for them. RYR had it going on. Nobody could pass him on their own, and whatever. But they let that race ruin what everything they had prior. All they had to do was kind of backtrack a little bit. We always talk about on here. They always say they can't unlearn shit. Yes, you can. You just outlaw it.
Yep.
And if you go back and watch the 2000 Daytona 500, nobody could handle but the Fords. That was a manufacturer issue. That was something that NASCAR just needed to look at and go, okay, what do we do to kind of make it even?
Yep.
The Tauruses just had them on lockdown, and there's nothing they could do. Um, Jeff Burton won the summer race. Basically the same thing. Nobody could fucking pass him. So, all they gotta do is look at their past and undo all this nonsense to bring it back. I mean, they actually kind of figured it out in the mid 2000s, around '05 or so. That kind of went back to the '90s, and then they're like, oh, we want
Mhm.
three wide, 10 rows back at all times, and they just need to get back to looking at what worked and what the memorable Daytona 500s are '90s for
Yeah.
me.
90s,
Oh
majoritively 90s without a question, and
yeah,
some within the 2000 to 2010 period, hit and
yeah.
miss. Um,
Not the roof rake or whatever the hell that was, the one
yeah,
that was on there when Earnhardt died, but I think it was like
the wicker bar. Yeah.
Ju- yeah, Junior when Junior won his 500, the first one, Jeff Gordon, those like '04, '05, '06, those were really good 500s
Yeah.
because they got back to what they were, and then they lost their minds.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Um,
So that's all I
Anything
have for the
else
duels.
we want to say before we get into the the main event, which will be a separate deal?
That's all I got.
All right. Well, then we'll see everybody for the next episode, which is going to be about the 500 weekend Trucks, Xfinity, and Cup, which
I'm
is
sorry for what?
the Grand National Series, because that's what we're going to
For
start calling
what?
it. Grand National.
The O'Reilly Auto Parts series.
No, I'm just going to go with GNS, Grand National. So until next time, thanks for listening.